Hi, my name's Stewart Lynch, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to ShareLink, which was introduced in iOS 16 and is a much simpler way to gather information from your app that you may wish to share with others via a share sheet. We'll be looking at the basic initializers and what effect each of the arguments have when using a share via a text message or an email, and then we'll take a look at a more practical example. I love getting your feedback, so tap the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video and leave a comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the video and ring that bell to get notifications of new videos. And if you want to support my work, you can buy me a coffee. As always, I have a starter project for this video that you can download from the link provided in the description. I encourage you to work along with me because in the end you'll have a sample project with code and examples that you can refer to in the future should you wish to implement something like this. The project is a simple tab view with two views. In the first view, we'll code some sample share links, and in the second one, I have presented a view of a wine that I particularly like, and it's a sample of the kind of information I keep in my wine cellar app, in which I'd like to share with my friends, even if they don't have my app. I have a simple wine object, and that's created using the wine model. And in here there is a static property called sample that I use for that view. And we'll come back to this model later. The label is just an asset that I've added to the bundle for this example. I also have added some additional assets for the app icon, and another image that I can use in my app, and one for the launch screen. So let's get started. Let's open the basic view, and it's here where we're going to explore the ShareLink. When you're learning about new additional frameworks or views like the ShareLink, you should start by checking out the Apple documentation. It comes with a lot of explanations and sample code these days that can help you get started. In addition, it provides you with all of the initializers and some explanations that specific property requirements may have. In this first video, I'm going to start out with the basics and show you how to create some simple share links, and as I said, the effect that each of the different arguments of the different initializers have on the resulting presentations and the ultimate share object. In the first view then, let's start with the most basic share link. So we'll start by replacing the comment by typing ShareLink with a left parentheses, and at this point, I want to stop and take a look at what you're seeing and how Xcode can help you out here. There's different initializers here shown here, and in some cases, some of the arguments are dimmed out, and some even have a +1 more or a +5 more, etc. after them. When a row is highlighted, you see below what type each of the arguments are. The ones that are dimmed out are optional, so if you just hit enter right now, the only item that you'll get entered would be the string item. So let's start there and enter something like string item, so that we can recognize what we have entered and how it is used in the actual ShareLink view. Right away we see on the canvas a new share button, but our string item is not used. Tap on the button and we see a share sheet appear. Now it's a little difficult to demonstrate share sheets well in the preview or in a simulator, so in a minute I'll connect my iPhone to show you what you can get using a real live phone. In the meantime, we have some text placeholder image beside the string that we've entered here. Okay, good. So let's return to the code screen and type another share link. And this time, notice that at the bottom of the screen there is a press right arrow to see more. And this is what displays the plus items indicated on the right. So we should see one more option for this particular initializer. And this time we see that not only can we use our item as a string, it can also be a URL. So let's create one of those. And you can use any URL you want, but I'm just going to use my own website address, Createx Solutions. And I'll have to unwrap it because otherwise it's optional. The buttons look the same, but when I tap on the second link now, the icon changes and I see my website listed. It's time to connect my iPhone with iOS 16 installed. If I tap on the first share link, the share sheet appears and offers me all of the apps that I can share content with. I'm going to be focusing on the message and mail apps in this tutorial. When I tap on the message, I see that the string entered is used in the body of my message. Similarly, if I tap on the email share, the string is used in the body of that email. If I tap on the share link that uses the URL, the preview for that item being sent actually displays more information that it gathers from the URL of that website. So you may get different views depending on what the website offers up. And then when I tap on the message link, I get a nice representation of my website that I could send on. The mail share, on the other hand, is not quite as nice. It simply displays the URL in the body of the message. One thing that I've noticed is I'm getting this warning when I tap on the URL share link. And I'm not sure why this is happening, and I believe it to be a bug. So what I'm going to do is just ignore that for now, and I'll just comment out this link, and I'll run it once more to remove that warning. Let's create another share link. Now you can see that all of them have grayed out optional subject and message properties. And they're all optional text views, and I'll get to them shortly. Before that though, I want to explore the title key version of the overload. If I tap on the right arrow, again, I see that I have both URL and string versions, and the title key is a localized string. In fact, you see that we have three options that I can use here, either a localized string key, a string conforming to the string protocol, or a text view. And we'll explore all of these. So you can choose any one of them and simply use any one of those three. So let's enter some text for the title key, and our item again is a string with the string items. Providing the title, as you see, adds the title as the title for the share link button. Well, let's use a text view instead. And this time, our text view will allow us to use some string interpolation. So I can add, for example, a system image using plus.circle.fill, and then I can add some additional text like with SF image. I'll keep the item to be the same thing, the string item. If I tap on the links in the preview, the share sheet is presented, and all three links present the same identical preview. And if we ran this on the phone, all three would be identical as we're sharing the same item in all three cases. And all we've done is altered the label of the share link itself. So let's check out the subject and message arguments that we've ignored. They're both optional. So type in share link once more, and then tap on the right arrow to show all the different options. In all cases, the subject and message arguments are grayed out. However, if you hold the Option key down on your keyboard, they become active. So let me scroll down to this one here using the string protocol. I'll hold the Option key down and press Enter. Now I have arguments for all of them. Well, we know that the title does. It just gives me the ability to change the title of the link itself. And the item is the content to be shared in the body of the message or email. Subject and message require text views. So let's start with just the subject and use a string that I'll be able to identify as the string used for the subject. So let me just remove that message argument first. So let's add another string to the share link called no preview, and you'll see why in just a minute. Let me copy this share link once more and create another one. In this one, I'll add back in the message argument, and again, I'll use a different string in the text view. Once more, I'll change the label to reflect what I'm going to see because I've done this. And we now have the item, subject, and message. If I tap on this link in the preview, I see that the message argument is now used as the preview and not the item string as we saw before. Let's run this on the simulator and check out both of these links. In the first case, where we only use the item and the subject, no text is used at all in the preview. However, I do get the icon for my app being displayed. If I share as a message, the string item content is in the body as expected, but the subject is nowhere to be seen. However, if I tap on the Share by Email, the body is as expected, and the subject has been used as the subject for the email. If I tap on the second link, the generic icon is back, but as you saw, the message argument is being used instead of the string item. And then when I share by message, both the string item and the message appear in the body. And for the email, all three items are used. The subject is in the right place, and then in the body, the item first, followed by the message. We'll be using this information to our advantage in the second part of this tutorial. For completeness sake, then, let's continue on and create another share link by duplicating that last one. And I'll change the title to URL subject message. But instead of the string, I'm going to use the URL. So let me just copy that URL from my commented out code and I'll use it. Let's test it out. This time I see the URL in my preview instead of the message. And when I share this via message, I only get the URL and not the message at all. If I share via email, however, I get it all again. The subject, the URL, and the message. Are you confused? There doesn't seem to be a lot of logic here. The lesson learned is that you need to test to make sure what you get is what you want. Up until now, we've basically just used a string for our title, and in each case we got that share icon displayed for free. If I use a share link that begins with not the title, but rather than uses the label option, we can change that. So again, we can expand our options once more and select one for sharing a string item. Let me separate these arguments out onto separate lines by using Ctrl-Shift-Click to create multiple cursors. And then again, I'll just enter some recognizable strings for my item and for the strings for my subject and message text views. The label, however, can be any view. So let me just first create an H stack. Inside there, I'll create a new label using the asset named label. I'll make it resizable, scale to fit, and a width of 30. And then I'll follow that text view with the string share it. Now it looks like a regular button, but with no share icon used. The result we'd get would be exactly the same as the item subject message case. The only thing we've changed is the share label icon. Well, we can also add a share link to the toolbar. So let's add a toolbar to our view. Inside there, create a toolbar item where the placement is navigation bar trailing. The item will be a share link, and we'll just create one using the title key with share. And though the item expects a URL here, it's just a placeholder, so I can use a string. So let's do that. Notice that the button up on the toolbar, the title is not displayed. So I could have just left that title out altogether. The link, however, works as expected. All we're sharing is the item, which is this string. One last thing for this section before we go on to something interesting. I've not shown you what happens if we leave out the subject and just use the string for the label, some string for the item, and the message optional text view only. If we tap on the link now, the preview looks quite different again, as it's telling me that I'm sharing some plain text, but I see both the item string and the message string in the preview below that. If I test this, it confirms that the content of the share remains that both the item and the message are included in the body of our text message and our email. But because we left off the subject argument, there's no subject on our email. Up until now, the item shared was either a string or a URL. This is rather boring. I want to share more rich content, like an image or an image and some text. In this view, I have a wine label for one of my favorite Chardonnays from our wine region. I want to share that with others. If I return to the model for this wine object, I see that I have a computed property called label image that will create a SwiftUI image based on the label string. But what if I want to share not only that, but other information as well? Well, there are a couple of ways of going about to doing this. I can basically take a snapshot of this entire view using the new image renderer API that was introduced in iOS 16, or I can mix image and text. So let's take a look at both ways. I have a complete video on image renderer that you might want to refer to, as I'm not going into any detail here, and I'll leave a link in the description. The first thing I'll need is a state property to which I can assign my rendered image, and it'll be optional, with the default being nil. Next, in order to render an image, I'll need a complete view to render. So let me factor out the entire VStack into its own view. So I'll copy it, and I'm going to create a new view struct that I'll call wine label, that of course requires a body, which is some view. And within that body, I'll just paste that copied VStack. And I'm going to remove the spacer as I won't need it here. Now I have to add a property that we can pass in that will be our wine type. So I'm going to keep the original VStack, but I'll replace the content that we copied with that wine view, passing in our sample wine. And I can remove the alignment here because I won't need it. I've left that within the wine view itself. Now below the wine label, I can add an onAppear function so that when it appears on the screen, we can render it and store it in our rendered image property. So we can create a renderer property that's an instance of the image renderer where the content is our wine label for that sample wine. Next, I'm going to set the renderer scale to 3. And then I can use an if-let to create an image from the renderer's CG image, and then assign it to the rendered image, the image formed using the decorative image with a scale of 1. Now below that, if we did get a rendered image, we can add a ShareLink button. This time, however, instead of using a string or URL for our item, I'm going to choose one that will allow us to use any type that conforms to the transferable protocol. And images do that. So you might want to check the documentation out as to what the transferable protocol is. And there are some good videos in the WWDC 2022 videos. I do want to include a subject and message, and this time I'm going to create something else that's called a preview. So I'll use a string for the label, but hold the Option key down to get all of these properties, and then hit Enter. I'm also going to want to separate them out onto their own line. The label string is simply just going to be ShareLabel as image. The item to be rendered will be our rendered image. For the subject, in the case in which I'm going to use an email, I'll use the wine's winery name. For the message body, I'll just use the enjoy the wine. For the preview, I'll need a share preview object. And this requires a title and an image. So for the title, I'll just use the string using the wine label name, which is just the name of the image that's in my bundle. But it could be anything. And then the image that is rendered will be our rendered image. Let me run this on our simulator now. When I tap on the link, the image gets used for the preview, and the wine label string is used for the preview title. If I share by message, the entire rendered image gets placed in the image itself, and it looks cut off. But in a second, I'll show you what it looks like when I receive it. So let me send it to one of my iMessage accounts, and I'll check it out shortly. If I send it as an email, I see that the subject gets entered, along with the message text, and the entire image is rendered here as well. So let me check out that message that I received. I see that I got the entire rendered image, of course not the subject, but I also didn't get the message text view, as I did in the email. So one last thing though, what if I do want to include text and image? And I don't want to capture the entire view, I just want to send the image label along with some copyable text of information that my recipients can use. So let me return to the wine model file right now and create a new computed property called description. And it'll be a string. And I'm going to create a multi-line string here so I can use 3 quotes at the beginning of a new line and then a closing set. And then whatever I enter in between can be a multi-line string. So let me just keep it basic. I'll use the string winery followed by the actual winery using string interpolation for that property. I'm going to do a similar thing for both variety and for name. I'll follow that on another line using string interpolation to display the flag property, followed by the region. Below that, I'll use the computed localized price. And then I'm going to want to add another string using an emoji to designate rating. So let me pick a star. And then I'll follow that by using string interpolation to produce the actual rating property. So let me return back to Wine View and create a toolbar with a toolbar item for a navigation bar trailing. Then I'll create a ShareLink as we did in the previous example, but this time I'll leave off the label because I know in the toolbar the label doesn't get displayed anyway. The item will be that transferable item, which is our computed property that will be our label image. The subject will be a text view with the string wine recommendation. For the message, because we know it gets added to the body, we'll use that entire wine description computed property. In the preview then, that's what gets displayed when we tap the share button, we need a share preview. And this time for the title, I'm going to use string interpolation on a text view to display both the wine name followed by the wine's variety. And then for the image, we'll use the wine's label image computed property, just the label itself. So let's test this one last time. If we tap on that preview button in the toolbar, it displays the image and that custom preview label as I planned it. In the message, I now see the image and our computed description. That's perfect. If I test as an email, I see the additional subject. And that same information is in the body, including both the text and the image. I think that's pretty good. Well, this basically finishes what I wanted to cover in this video, and I hope you've learned some things that you may want to use in your own projects. And there's one more thing that I like to do, particularly in my sample code, is to make it more readable. I love using that Control-Shift option to create multiple cursors that allows me to separate out function arguments or view arguments into separate lines like I'm doing here in this basic view, so that when I go back to review my code and check out examples, I find it easier to follow, particularly in the arguments. Anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to get notified of new videos as they get released. Thanks again for taking the time to watch, and I hope to see you in the next video.